We ready? Good morning. We are starting our meeting from our board retreat from yesterday. So we are ready to get back in session. So with that, welcome again, everyone. Hope you had a good evening. And Dr. Peterson, we will turn it over to you again.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam President, and thank you, Board, for returning for your second day of retreating, which is really about vision and mission. I'm going to ask either Dr. McCormick or Dr. Sample to bring back up my welcome presentation and assist me, please. All right, and so you will remember we're loading. Okay, there it is. You'll remember that we started yesterday with this fine chalk rendering of the beginning of our mid-year board retreat, and that this year we're on a bit of a different format, being that we're on Zoom and passing it across 2 days. So appreciate your patience. Next slide. And just reminding us that the fact is that we're here to create vision and a spirit of hope and achievement, and that we are keeping the board and cabinet's thoughts and presence in that space of understanding that that's our role, is to create that sense of how we live amply and with excellence. Next slide. And reminding that this year is our 2020 vision, how we're helping each other shine through Ubuntu and continuing our dream, design, adapt, and persevere. We talked a lot yesterday about this concept of how we've had to continually adapt and persevere. And that's shown up in all of the work we've been talking about strategically. It certainly was one of the strands that the San Juan board meeting was discussing last night in terms of their various actions over time. So certainly we are not alone in our adapting and persevering. I don't know how many times I was going to start taking notes of how many times they said fluid and pivot, because it does seem to be the two words of the moment, fluid and pivot. So next slide. Just a reminder, we are wanting to welcome anyone who is watching this on YouTube, our staff, members, our public, our attendees that may be there supporting us. Thank you for either being with us on YouTube or watching this after the fact. We appreciate you, and we appreciate you being a part of our transparent governance. Reminding the board that and staff, we're all about purpose and meaning, and keeping our work to the strategic, important purpose and meaning work of the GCC. The norms for our particular retreat in Zoom is that people are taking care of their human needs as they need to. We do have a couple small breaks scheduled if all goes well. And but if you need to take care of anything, whether you are interrupted or someone walks in or you need to leave the room, you are free to do so. We ask that you turn your video and mute yourself for such events, but everybody will have such events. It's fine. Also, just acknowledging the 2-day event this year. Next slide. And we talked about the goals of the retreat yesterday, but a reminder, this is about best practice governance. It's about being strategic around the progress of our vision, mission, goals, and direction. It's keeping our core commitments and key priorities in front of us, strategic direction, continuing to create relationship and connection with one another in the organization, and finding a little joy in the process. Next slide. So for good things, I thought today, remember that we are continuing as a board to model our Capturing Kids' Hearts processes, but I thought that today we'd let Jason share out, because he is actually the key point on our GIS renewal last night. So I thought, Jason, you might take a moment and share with us the good news about last night, and maybe affirm people who were a part of that process.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Peterson. Good morning, everyone. So let me just kick off with what I definitely think is a good thing. On last night, Gateway International School was approved on a 5-0 vote, unanimous vote by the San Juan board for another 5-year term for their charter, which was really nice. I will tell you, usually you kind of look forward to hearing comments from the board members, but I think last night the best comment was the 30 seconds that it took for them to vote our item and to keep it moving, but it was really appreciative. So I want to just publicly take this opportunity to affirm what I think has been a phenomenal team. Principal Joy Takoy, just for her passion, her work, her energy, her entire team, from her vice principals, curriculum coach, her teachers, all who have done a great job getting this ready, as well as her parent leaders. We had some students who, in the public hearing a few months back, also spoke. And then within our central office, want to affirm Dr. McCormick for her work on our education portion of the document, as well as Director Heather Gold, Director Eric Crawford. I want to affirm Sergey, Director Terakop, for his work with community outreach and working with our board members. And then as much as we all are thanking each other, I definitely want to also affirm Dr. Peterson for her leadership. She was right there catching all the T's that we did not cross, the I's that we did not dot, and helping with the strategy. And then finally, Aaron Thornsberry and his team for all the work that goes into the fiscal documents and cash flow projections and multi-year. So as you can tell, our charter renewals are really a team effort. And so I want to affirm the entire team.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's
So
wonderful.
proud. Congratulations. Thank you.
And to everyone who stayed online late into the night to hear that 30-second announcement, we appreciate you as well. But definitely want to affirm everyone. And certainly I know it's awkward to affirm yourself, but Jason is the point on our charter renewals. He is the person who coordinates the political and strategic work that we do to gain influence during that process. And I definitely want to affirm him as well. So certainly we do have an incredible team. So, all right. So am I going to the next slide, or is this it? I'm trying to remember what's next. I think that might be it. Nope, there we are. Just a review of our day. So you can see what we accomplished yesterday. And today we're going to do a bit on facilities, best practice governance training. The community engagement team is going to report on a variety of projects. Special education is a big item of interest today, charter renewals, and then our regular business. So this is my last slide, Mr. Sample. And so we'll take this down. We are going to go directly into our agenda. And our first item is Aaron Thornsberry and Jerry Little have some reports for you about our facilities projects. So Aaron, it's your show.
Okay. All right. And can you all see the PowerPoint slide that shows facility update?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, Jerry, go ahead and start it off.
Okay, well, good morning, Madam President of the board and Dr. Peterson. Here we are doing another facility update for you all. We'll start by, anyway, we'll start off by talking a little bit about our reopening plans and what we've done to start with the pandemic. And then, so we've started getting a lot of PPEs, personal protection equipment from the state, as well as some that we've purchased at the beginning. We've contracted with Centos, and they've gone and put hand sanitizing stations in all of our schools, either portable units that we have placed strategically around the campus, and also wall-mounted units placed in classrooms and office spaces. We've also got desk dividers, as you can see in the pictures there, for a lot of the schools, most of the schools, I think all of the schools. We put dividers in the restrooms between sinks and partitions. We've got state supplied, like I said, state supplied PPE and GCC purchased PPE. I'll be picking some more up today that's being donated from the state for EPIC. We've replaced all the filters with MERV 13 filters in the HVAC units. Got plexiglass barriers at the front desks of all of our schools for the public and employee separation. Sanitizing wipes are at all sites, hydrostatic well, actually electrostatic sanitizing sprayers that we've purchased for the sites. So they all have these sprayers that get sprayed down the classrooms at the end of each day. And Epic, GIS, COA Middle School have all purchased in-room air purifiers. So there's a lot of stuff we've done for the reopening, and I feel like we got a pretty good handle on where we need to be as far as helping the sites out to maintain clean environments for the students to return.
Yeah, and I just want to add one other thing too. I think it's not on a bullet is we received thousands of masks from the state over the last several months too.
Mhm.
Face masks for the students, and we've purchased some as well and given those out to all the staff and students.
Yeah. Then we'll go on to some of the projects that we've completed between the last update and this update. Still working on the shade structure for COA Elementary School. Right now, it's currently in the design review at Sac County Building Department. We've gotten the approval from Sac Metro Fire as well as a portion of the Sac Building Department, but they've also required us to go through a design review for this now. So that currently in that process. LED sign, says sign that's going to go out there on the corner of Dudley and James outside Rafferty B to get a little bit more attraction to the school. That is also in design review, and then it will go to the final approval at the building department. But that is currently getting some help with McClellan on that right now through that design review process. And then around Rafferty A playground, we're replacing a lot of the containment for the bark. We're going to do a concrete seat wall on that. It'll last a lot longer, have a lot less maintenance than the current material that's there now. And that began just this last Monday. So that should be wrapped up here in a couple of weeks, hopefully before the students come back. We'll have that all finished up and out of the way. Next slide. Now we'll go on to the modernization at GIS. Don't know if any of you have been able to go over there, but the campus looks a lot different now. Looks really nice. This project started back in August of 18. It's been kind of a 2-year project. It's gone into this year a little bit. They're just finishing up now. The estimated cost on it was $13.3 million. Half of it was through the San Juan Unified School District bond, and the other half was funded by the state through grants. The modernization included, we'll go on to the next slide here in a little bit, but it has a new HVAC in all the classrooms, library, and multi-purpose room, which the multi-purpose room didn't have anything to be, before. So it really helps out there. Kitchen also was included in the multi-purpose room. It's got new roofing on the site, new electrical equipment for the transformers. They replaced all the damaged siding. They repainted interior, exterior, did flooring in the interior, got new flooring in the multi-purpose room as well. They resealed and restriped the parking lot. I don't know if any of you remember going in there. You used to have those pretty heavy bumps getting into there off the street. That's all nice and smooth now. They replaced windows and doors, installed rain gutters. So what used to, come off those little shed roofs and land in the planter areas has now got gutters and downspouts taking it out into the storm drain. New flooring in classrooms, as we mentioned. They renovated all the bathrooms. They put a new fire alarm, CO2 monitoring, and intercom clock system there, and also did a lot of the landscaping in the site as well. Next slide. So we mentioned that back in August is when it started. We had a pre-modernization planning meeting, and then from fall to spring of 2019, that's when they started doing the fire alarm clocks. Right around that time frame. It was proposed that in the summer of 2019 is when they started doing the HVAC, roofing, gas, all the electrical upgrades. And they also, San Juan donated 4 portable classrooms for us, and we had those installed in the back as well. So that you can have the classrooms while they were shutting down the wings, had a place for the students to go. And then the fall of 2019 through now, especially when we had the pandemic, we were able to kind of go in there and get a little bit more work done instead of doing wing by wing. They're able to get a little bit more done at a time. And that's where they did the siding repairs, window replacements, all the ADA upgrades, parking lot, and kind of did all the other finished work that we mentioned in there. Next slide. I think we got some pictures for you. So that's, remember the parking lot before, that's what it's looking like now. Top picture there is where you come in, it's all nice and smooth, and then off to the right is where you go to the next, bottom left is the, when you turn to the right to go over to the main office, and off to, on the other picture there is going towards the park on the left. So it's all nice, no water standing anymore. This is some pictures of the courtyards that they did, part of the landscaping throughout. Took down a lot of the bigger bushes, opened it up a little bit more. Got some planter areas in there now, and those galvanized troughs there are like planter boxes that the students can plant things in. So it's a lot cleaner, a lot neater. This one you can see kind of the window replacements on the top building, new HVAC units, bottom left, and then the one on the right there is the corridor that goes from kind of the gymnasium over to where the A wing is, where the library and kindergarten areas are. That used to always flood down there, and they redid all the concrete there and everything, so all that water is draining off now. And then now you can see the gym floor. It used to be the wood floor on there, and it kind of had the plywood patches in there and things like that. So the floor is all nice and new. It's got the the sport court covering on it now. The classroom lower left there, you can see where they got some partitions on the desk as well, and then all the new paint and carpet in there and curtains. And then I got a picture of the office there too, with the nice bright colors now and everything else. It's looking really nice.
It sure is.
So if you guys ever get a chance to go over there, when things calm back down and we're able to actually go on sites again, take a look at it. Looks really good. Now we'll talk about the other big project we had at Rancho Del Paso for futures and higher learning. We did the modular project for Higher Learning Academy. We're finishing that up, the actual elevator inspection. They were working on that again this week. The actual state certification will be on Monday. Then we're doing we talked, I think the last board meeting about the storefront doors for the corridor up and up in the Futures High School. I just talked to the contractor this morning on that too. We should have a construction schedule soon. They sent the shop drawings over to the architect. So once he gets those back, we'll be able to see what the lead times and everything are and get that schedule set up for that. Higher Learning Academy, the modular project, actually, was a pretty quick project overall. We started in June of 2019 with the planning and finishing up here this month. Estimated cost on that was $4.7 million. It included the 6 brand new classrooms, the 1 elevator, stairways, the corridors upstairs. That's probably adding another 57 roughly indoor square feet for it, and included the concrete patio courtyard area with some new landscaping out there as well. It's another one to go out and look at if you guys get a chance. It really fits in nicely with the buildings that we already have there. So next slide. The timeline on this one, like I said, we started in the spring of 2019 with planning process and determining the location, coming up with initial drawings and the cost of the project. Rolled right into the summer and fall, where we toured some modular manufacturing sites over in the Bay Area, Santa Rosa area, and was looking at a couple of different manufacturers for doing these modular type buildings. Then we contracted with the PRLO group, which is our architectural services, and requested bids from quite a few different manufacturers, and anything from the normal portable type all the way up to these modular type buildings where they build offsite and bring in. And then in January 2020, we contracted with iMod for the construction and Carter Kelly for the general contractor for the site work. March 20, we did the pre-construction job walk. And then as we all know, COVID, our pandemic hit, and we were able to send, well, not able, kind of sounds positive thing, but kids got sent home. So it actually gave us a chance to actually get an early jump start on this. So in April, we started grading, because we was going to try to do a tight timeline in the summer from June to September, but we were able to get the early start. So we started in April, May through September. iMod came out too. We're doing the groundwork, but they struggled with the COVID, with some manufacturing and delivery of some products. Things got tied up there. But then in October, September, right, the first beginning of September, they actually were able to come out and set the buildings. So they set all 6 classrooms, the buildings within, 3 days. And then from then on, we were doing the finished work, getting the stairways, landing concrete work outside. And then now we got 6 new classrooms. Project took 10 months from the groundbreaking to completion, and we should be having students in there hopefully next week. So it's turned out to be pretty nice. You can see now we'll go through some pictures here. It's pretty interesting to see the actual pictures of the site compared to the rendering, because they're actually kind of look a lot alike. But the one on the left is a rendering that our architects did at the beginning before we even started the project. And then on the right is an actual finished product. And then these are just more pictures. You got the courtyard there with the staircases going up to the classrooms. Lower left is looking from kind of, if you're coming out of the back of the office, you'll look over and that's kind of the view you'll see there. And lower right is actually just a different view of the same building from the playground side. Then you have the courtyard looking straight on. Then I went upstairs and got one coming down, so you can kind of see from the upstairs landing area. And then you'll see the lower right is classrooms. The classrooms are kind of nice in these. They have different HVAC systems, and you see all the white in the middle around the wall is a magnetic whiteboard where they can actually use the whole wall there for writing. The middle of that is a kind of a smart TV that they can connect iPads and things to. And then over there on the left, you'll see the kind of brown wall. Those are all tackable surfaces. And the HVAC in this is all distributed through the ceiling. You won't see the normal vents like you usually see, but that middle section of the ceiling there, it's all perforated. And you have one duct, one AC duct that comes halfway down and one that goes the full length of it. And that actually is a perforated ceiling where it actually disperses the air evenly throughout the classroom. So you don't have like one area that's being cooler than the other where the vents are. It's actually going to be dispersed throughout the thing. And you'll see that we also have the desk, the plexiglass on the desk, and then carpet looks a little different than what we usually do, but the site seems to like it too, and it's gives a little bit more vibrance into the room. So those are the classrooms there. There's a lot of technology. They got the clock and intercom systems in there as well that will be connected to the regular site, the regular school as well. I think that's it for this update. You guys have any questions?
Any questions, board members? Okay, I saw
Yes.
Mr. Block. Let's hear him, Mr. Block first, and then Mr. Turner. Block.
Oh, I was just going to say, I've been driving through there, so I've been seeing all the new project as it went along. I go over there probably at least once or twice a month. So I've been watching the progress as it grows. So it's looking nice.
Yeah, it's a really nice product. And they've done a good job of putting it together. Well, it's one of the iMod's first projects they did. So they're actually coming out and doing a little production thing today, getting some film crews out there, but it's a really nice product. So we'll see how it goes.
Jack.
No, I just want to say it looks really impressive at Higher Learning Academy. It looks like it's part of the original construction.
Yeah, it's one of the looks we were going for with the more industrial tie-in with everything out there.
I am so impressed with GIS. GIS is one of my schools that I go to frequently. And to see the difference that has happened within 1 year's time, it's phenomenal. I can't wait to get there and to walk through it and see all of the things that have happened there. I am so proud of what's happening at GIS, at all of our schools, but GIS is kind of close to my heart.
Yeah, I like to, just affirm the staff on that site as well as HLA and everything for putting up with all the construction that's been going on. And I know Joy has taken on a big role on the modernization too. And, it's been really great.
And the other part is so good to have the relationship with the San Juan School District after last night and the work that they have done to put into that facility, knowing that students are there and they deserve a special place. So I'm just so proud of everything that's really taking place and happening. So thank you, Jerry, for all of the work that you are doing. You know, not you and Aaron, not a lot of staff there. So thank you for your continued support and all of the hard work that you're doing.
Thank you for your support.
And can I just add to that affirmation? You know, we have a very small and mighty facilities team, which is primarily Jerry, and we also have a maintenance worker, but certainly want to give Jerry a lot of affirmation for being the contact or the person on the ground running, making all this work. And plus, he has to meet with me and I have to approve everything and argue color schemes with him. So I think he should get compat pay for that alone. But seriously, you know, it's funny when I hear him present and I'm like, yes, I remember that conversation and how we arrived at that. And but actually, I very much enjoy those conversations and enjoy what Jerry brings in value added in his work and his role. So thank you, Jerry.
All right. Any other comments from board? Hearing none. Thank you again, Jerry, for your dedication, commitment, and hard work. We love you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good one, guys.
Thank you, Jerry. Aaron Thornsbury, is there anything else on your plate that you are presenting regarding facilities?
No.
Okay.
That is all for us.
Okay. And so we're going to move from that item to our next item, which is both Jason Sample and Aaron Thornsbury are going to present to you a best practice governance training around the area of fiscal oversight. And I know that Jason's recent completion of the CSDC CBO mentorship program should help him add some value to Aaron's already deep knowledge in this area. So Jason and Aaron, you are on.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Peterson. Good morning, board members. I'll let Aaron say good morning, and then we'll jump in.
Good morning. Thank you.
All right, so the question becomes, you know, in terms of when you look and say, you know, we're a very established board, we've been around long time, and, you know, we've done this work. Why do we need to continue to have governance training around fiscal? You know, for one, it's a great opportunity for us to share kind of what's best practice. It also shows that we continue to grow and develop, and we continue to bring you new information. And as a governance team, you have the best knowledge, information present for you as you make your decisions. And one of the key areas that charter schools make decisions is in the fiscal world. So for us, this is very foundational to your work, and the time and energy that we spend sharing this with you is to actually help and continue to strengthen and grow and develop you as board members. Aaron, anything you want to share before I?
No, please go ahead and take it away.
So I want to kick off, as always, with anytime you talk about fiscal matters, charter schools are usually somewhere in the news. I want to share a couple of news stories. Recently, California wasting millions of dollars funding online charter schools. A3 Education, charter school down south, and actually a little bit up north, 11 were indicted over their involvement in a charter school scheme that defrauded California taxpayers of millions of dollars, more than 50. IDA charter chain, the board approved a private jet lease for nearly $2 million a year, and then reversed the approval when it became public that they were doing this. And then a Los Angeles couple makes millions from self-dealing with their charter schools. Matter of fact, scandals in charter schools are so popular that there is a social media website and hashtag called #AnotherDay, another charter school scandal. But what's interesting about scandals of fiscal matters, they're not only in charter schools, They're also in our comprehensive schools. Montebello School District, the officials were accused of misleading investors in a $100 million bond sale. Recently, Mill Valley School District had some credit card issues where their district credit cards were charged for hot air balloon rides and oysters and special trips. That's not a charter school. The LA School Board had a money laundering scandal, and then a superintendent and IT employee were charged recently with embezzlement in a California district. So all this to say, fiscal and areas of financial are places where corruption, fraud can happen. And when we're trained, when we have the knowledge, we're able to avoid a lot of these. So in terms of the role of the board, really, when it comes down to fiscal management, the role of the board is the big three. One, understanding the fiscal condition of the school or the organization. And two, overseeing the operating budget to protect the resources of our schools. And ultimately holding, our staff and school staff accountable for the appropriate management of these funds, basically being good stewards of the public's dollars. And then ensuring that the necessary financial policies are in place to prevent fraud, waste, and misappropriation. So I will tell you, as board members, you have a huge task on your shoulders. Aaron?
All right. So some of the common charter budget problems that we see come up, that we have a lot of times a minimalist budget that's developed, really only to satisfy the charter granting agency. So we just, a lot of times, charter school, I just slap a budget together. It may not be very accurate, and it's just to show what the oversight school district wants to see. Obviously, when the real revenues come in and the real expenses hit, that can create a lot of problems. Oftentimes we see what is seen out there with charter schools, or sometimes even school districts, lack of board engagement and understanding. So that's another reason why we have this training, is we want to make sure that our board continues to have the understanding and engagement, and why we present a lot of these topics to you continuously. Lack of stakeholder engagement. Sometimes we see unrealistic and ungrounded assumptions, lack of a mission alignment, or the budget is adopted and it's just kind of thrown in the file cabinet or stored away and ignored. Next slide. So just to go over what is a budget and its philosophy. A budget is a governance tool. It does provide the authority to spend. So it has, we have a budget, and when we pass that budget, that is the tool to say, hey, we're not going to go over, a certain amount that we have allotted in terms of total expenditures. And another thing is a strategic tool that helps us plan what we want to do, and do we have enough resources to do what we want to do. Management and measuring, how well did we do? We can look back at it and compare to it and see how we're tracking on our actual performance. And a communication tool as well, to let everyone know and our stakeholders know how we plan to spend our resources, and how we're going to use those resources and what we plan to do. Next slide. So again, it's a governance tool. It is the board's official authorization of expenditures. The budget is the delegation of that expenditure authority to the staff. And usually that's within a balanced budget context. Sometimes we might experience, certain lines or certain areas of the budget are performing well. We're saving money in one area, but maybe we can divert those other resources to another area, as long as we keep that that level of total expenditures the same. Okay, go ahead. Next slide. Just to go in a little more depth with the planning tool, it is an allocation of resources to the program and mission of the organization and the charter schools. Tangible fiscal identification and agreement of the key planning assumptions, because many different assumptions go into this, from enrollment, ADA, levels of staff, FTEs, all of that. The budget should align with the organization's plan and strategic plans. And it helps also to identify whether the identified mission and programs are sustainable. Sometimes we get, one-time funding for things, and that's not sustainable. If we hire a bunch of people to use with that one-time funding, and that funding goes away next year, then we're left kind of holding the bag. How do we continue to pay the salaries on those individuals? Next slide. As a measurement tool, budget, we look at what resources are needed to meet the organization's goals, outcomes, and mission. And we look at our resources. Will they be enough to meet the goals, outcomes, and mission? And will we have enough left over to expand or increase? So resources, oftentimes you'll see, are the revenues and the grants that we receive, and are they, so we look at that, and are they enough? And if they're not enough, then we need to adjust. And our reserves might be, will we have enough left over to plan for something, maybe a future expansion, or we want to increase our mission in the future. So we need to have to sometimes build reserves to do that. Budget acts as a management tool because it establishes the fiscal and other benchmarks and targets, clarifies the staffing levels and positions that are authorized, and it identifies how much school administrators and budget leads may spend, and how they can spend that funding. And it also establishes the organization resource, the allocation priorities. Okay. Some of the fiscal landmines that, and these are areas that can lead to trouble that we'll go over here, are oftentimes why charter schools, or even sometimes districts, end up going into receivership, or why a charter school may have a financial failure, is sometimes in the area of benefits, payroll, insurance, facilities financing, and enrollment projections. With internal controls is another area that we have to make sure that we are managing and monitoring. Management is responsible for ensuring that the internal controls are established, that they're documented and maintained, and they're adhered to within the organization. All the employees and board members are responsible to comply with the internal controls, that we don't just exempt a bunch of different people, and everyone has to comply. You have to kind of have a culture of compliance and making sure that you're setting a good example, especially at the top, that we follow our rules, we follow our procedures. Audit is one other area too that's an important area. We have an external audit every year, and the auditors come in and they make sure that we're actually following our internal controls. And oftentimes, because we have a lot of federal grants, state grants, that there is a lot of extra procedures that the auditors do to make sure that we are complying with those rules. And oftentimes another way to, another aspect of good internal controls is reviewing internally transactions. That, when, let's say you have accounts payable, they're paying the bills, you review what they're paying, you review their work, you review their checks and make sure things match, and they're not just, they could, that we're making sure that that fraud is not being perpetrated. Segregation of duties is another important internal control, because that prevents, if you have one person being able to do everything, to write checks, create vendors, issue POs, write their own payroll checks, that can lead to fraud because person can cover their tracks up, and they can easily withdraw money or steal funds. So that, and that's something that we do here. We make sure that we do, just to give reassurance to the board. We do all of these things that are listed here, and our auditors make sure that we are compliant with all of that.
And so you asked the question of why is this such high stakes? With the passage of AB 1505, it did change the landscape a little bit in terms of the consideration of fiscal or governance factors in either charter renewal or the approval of an initial petition. Ed Code 47607E now puts a heavy kind of onus on the fact that a district or an authorizer could deny a renewal upon finding that the school is unlikely to successfully implement the program due to substantial fiscal or governance factors. So once again, it really has made this to where fiscal integrity within the system is very important for us. And, I like the little cartoons because, it's part of the argument of, well, it's because the charter schools are taking all the money from the public schools, and public schools, we're saying they're bullies. But really what it comes down to is, when you look at it, is fiscal and governance really become two of those big things that can cause a charter to not be successful, as we saw earlier. With that being said, do you have any questions for us?
Any questions, board members? Comments? Anything? Okay, if they have none, is there anything as a board we need to be doing differently? Just for the records, when I go to conferences and I hear some of the questions that are being asked by people who are in charter schools, I'm always amazed at their lack of knowledge or their lack of knowing what to do in terms of fiscal responsibilities. So is there anything else that we need to do in terms of being prudent fiscal people on the board?
So I'll take that first, Aaron. I will say, I think one of the things that our board, each of you have done is we have a very strong system in place, in that you have Aaron and his team who they have their checks and balances. We have Dr. Peterson, part of our checks and balances. We have the county as part of our checks and balances, and then the board, your role. So I really feel that when you look at an example of what fiscal oversight looks like in a school system, in my opinion, I feel that we do it, and we do it well. So I don't know, Aaron, if you want to add something.
I just think continue doing the good work you do. When we have, there are, the CSDC conferences, the CCSA conferences, AXA, continue to attend those each year. I know we do that kind of on a rotating basis, I think, through the board, to attend and make sure you're up to date on the topics. And I think, like Jason said, we have very good procedures in place to make sure, and we have we bring the budgets, we bring the financials, we bring the audit report. We continue to bring those to you, to report on those to you. And I just say, continue to ask questions. Check in with myself or Jason on anything that you feel that you want to know, and to make sure that that there's nothing left unchecked. So.
If I were to add, I would just say one of the things that I think happens is people get complacent because they think that they know, or they think that they can just trust, or and so they don't perform it at the same level in terms of asking the questions and looking deeply at the numbers. I have not seen that happen with this board, but that's what I would say is that just as Aaron said, continue to look at everything with the same level of detail you have. If something isn't clear, ask questions. Certainly we do our very best as a cabinet team to think ahead, to provide you with depth of information before you have to ask about it. We hope we can provide it for you. So we're trying to meet your needs in that way. But we do want to confirm and affirm that our board is an experienced board with years of experience and knowledge. But we ask you to continue to stay diligent in your work with us.
All right. Anything else? Any other questions, board members? Mr. Block.
Yes, I just want to say one of the things that I look at this board and where we are united together, even though we can agree and disagree with things. So it makes it open for everyone to see. So because we ask questions that's come from way beyond, I go look at things, I'm coming back and say, why is this? Why is that? Why we spend money on this? And these are the kind of questions that board should ask, because I'm looking at the overall, we work together. And this is the thing that we should have togetherness. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from anyone? Okay, seeing no other hands or hearing nothing. Thank you so much for that fiscal report, because that is really important that we stay on top of what we're supposed to be doing as board members. And if there's something new that we need to know, you have to bring it to us. So thank you, Aaron, and thank you, Jason, for that report and for that review on fiscal responsibilities. Thank you.
So wanting to, again, go back and confirm that, in that same spirit of organizational sustainability and cross-training and depth in the leadership team, one of the reasons Jason was co-presenting with Aaron is that Jason has gone through the CBO mentorship program that CSDC provides, and that right now Dr. McCormick is similarly going through it. So I think it's another sign of the depth of our cabinet that that each of us is trying to know the other person's competency area to a level to be able to add value. So I definitely want to affirm Jason and Christine for that work as well. It makes it much easier for us to help the principals in decision making, especially around all the special funding, when we have people who are very knowledgeable about it. So definitely want to affirm the team. All right, I think we're going to go into the next strategic presentation, which, as I understand it, is Mr. Sampo and Mr. Terekhov going to talk to us about all the various things that fall under community engagement.
All right, let me unmute myself there. All right, so Sergey Terekhov and I, Director Terekhov, and I would like to spend just a few minutes sharing with you some things that are happening around community engagement development, the foundation, the Community Business Advisory Council, and then we want to talk a little bit about some of our efforts around marketing and outreach within our schools, and we'll take some questions on the other end. So there. So the first thing that I would like to share, as many of you know, Board Member Mark Anderson is kind of your bridge to the foundation and the work that we do. And so last year, even in the midst of the pandemic, we did some really deep work with a consultant from Crocker Communications, who helped us to kind of begin to develop an identity for the foundation. And what we really found is that as we were kind of transitioning from a very heavy event year, we needed to begin to move more into kind of some fund development to continue to raise funds. And so this was the logo that was created and chosen for the foundation, because we had been using the GCC one to kind of have our own unique identification. I will tell you, you'll notice that there are some very similar colors in this in terms of blue and grays. And so I think we probably know whose fingerprints is on that color scheme for the foundation's logos, and that's Dr. Peterson. That's her fingerprint colors there. But very excited, and I will tell you what the foundation board has kind of coalesced around is they love beginning to have an identity. So just to kind of let you know where we are currently with our board, we have Alan Hom, who was one of our founding board members. He still continues to sit as a member of the board, and actually more recently has been working with us very closely around the Firehouse Cafe project in terms of just his passion of wanting to bring his service to help us kind of create and design. And Sergey will talk a little bit more about what we're doing there when he speaks about one of our grants. Firuza Burhan from Wells Fargo Bank, of course, Director Mark Anderson, who is your connection. He's currently serving as our 2020-21 chair for the foundation, with Alan serving as our vice chair. So next year, Alan would be the chair. Alex Ushakov, who is a business banker with Northern Bank. Jason Bell from Capital Planning. He actually was invited to join our board a year ago. And just due to kind of his work schedule, he has not been able to fully plug in, but I will tell you, he did give his annual contribution. So we like to kind of consider him our board member in waiting. And so he is really looking forward to joining us later this year. And then recently we have a student who went through our programs and actually was an employee of GCC, who has now came back to join our foundation board, and that's Max Gonchar, who we feel will kind of begin to start that very critical connection with the alumni. One of the things that we found, and speaking with other kind of school-based foundations, is figuring out ways to get your alumni involved in your foundation was also another branch to raise money. And then through our partnership with Sacramento Municipal Utility District, also known as SMUT, they will be seating a board member on our foundation board later on this year likewise. And so we're excited. For our transitioning board members, these are the ones that have been with us for a few years, but they're transitioned off this year. Tyson Sheedy, Michi Schmidt, Carrie Monroe, and Dana Cruz. They all have agreed that they will still kind of stick around as an advisory board. And again, it's just a way to have them still being able to help us. And then the foundation's corporate officers continues to be Dr. Peterson, Mr. Thornsberry, and myself. So that kind of makes up our foundation team. Sergey, did you want to add anything about that before I move?
No, I think this covers it all. Thank you, Jason.
So let's talk a little bit about the direction the foundation is going in. As you know, by now we would have had multiple events. I was looking at the calendar on March the 14th of 2020 was our crab feed, where we were all gathered at the California Aerospace Museum and enjoying crab and having lots of fun. And on March 16th, the world shut down. So I feel like we got the very last event in the world before COVID hit. And I will tell you, for us, it's made us kind of take a moment to pivot in this fluid time to say, all right, how else can we raise funds for the foundation? How else can we kind of create a fund development strategy? So to let you know, this year has been a lot of work with the foundation to get them to the place to where we're talking about what fund development looks like. So I'll talk a little bit about the Sierra Health Foundation, Obama Foundation grant. Again, that's a more program-based grant. It's a mentoring grant that we received last year. Matter of fact, at our fall retreat, I remember we had just gotten the email in the middle of the retreat that said, hey, congratulations, we're giving you this funding. I think we kind of announced that to you. So we continue to work on that and looking to deepen our partnership there for future funding. And then Sergey is going to share with you about the other grants that he's worked on.
Yes, thank you, Jason. Good morning, everyone. So we are continuing our partnership with Wells Fargo Bank. This is, again, strategic partner that have actually over a few years granted us approximately $30,000 for the foundation. The focus of those funds are more on the career technical education and career exploration. So we're in the conversation with their leadership, and they know about our priorities for this year and just waiting for that grant opportunity to open because they had some changes in their foundation and how they operate. So another one would be SMUD, Sacramento Municipal Utility District. Last year we have applied and successfully received a SHINE grant, and out of like many applicants, Gateway Community Charters Foundation was chosen. And this is to support a wonderful project at the Firehouse Cafe, at the Firehouse Community Center to open and operate student-led cafe. And we do have coffee cart purchased. We have some equipment in order to purchase, such as espresso machines and grinders, professional grinders, and we're working with suppliers to get this to the Firehouse. And we have done some work with the architect, with our own Alan Hom, and Jason and I, we have received the floor plan, and we're going to be discussing the exact location and improvements that we're going to be doing. So the grant was $24,000 with some matching funds that we will be providing from Maine GCC. The idea is, again, to recruit students and have them go through classes on business planning, finances, kind of give them taste of how to operate small business, as well as learn some skills as a barista. On the other side, also, it is really imperative that we celebrate and we record the history of the Del Paso Heights and North Sacramento community, which is crucial. So there is a portion of the grant that will cover that. Did I miss anything, Mr. Semple?
And I think one of the things that we're most excited about, as much as Sergey's renamed the Firehouse Community Center to the Firehouse Cafe, that's almost how we feel. And sometimes when we come in there, we have to tell the folks we're not taking over yet. But really, for us, it's exciting because we're looking forward. Our community engagement specialist has begun to work with students from CCCS, SAVA, and Futures to begin to recruit and get our first group of students in. We also have a partnership with the North Sacramento Chamber where they are prepared and ready to begin to give us business mentors for those students. And Sergey will talk a little bit more about our chamber involvement later. The other SMUD grant that we have received this year is really more of a pass-through grant for SAVA in terms of their work with clean energy. And so we're really kind of excited. I think you can kind of see a theme. We have really begun to build a deep relationship with SMUD, and we want to kind of keep that going. And so Sergey, talk about the COVID relief grant.
Yes, and just to add a little bit about SMUD, SMUD is a very strategic local partner with nonprofits, and having SMUD as a partner for GCC Foundation also creates a very positive public relation for us, because they also send press releases, and Jason and I have attended Shine Celebration virtual event to celebrate the grant recipients, where like a lot of community leaders were present. So it's a good publicity for the GCC Foundation. Yes, the COVID relief grant, this came very late last year. Governor Newsom allocated some funds to assist, to provide assistance to small businesses as well as small nonprofits. And one of the criteria, even though we don't have employees for GCC Foundation, but one of the criteria was the nonprofits that are providing economic development services, which we are. What was interesting is they were looking for losses and revenue, which we had, and I believe it was from April through September. So we actually looks like we qualified, we applied, and right now it's pending. So we're looking for lenders in the state of California to give us hopeful approval on this. It's not a large grant, but there's very few restrictions. It can be utilized more of a general fund for the foundation.
So as you can kind of see, our strategy, which is what we really want you to hear, is that our strategy for trying to continue to raise funds for the foundation is 1, through board giving and board contributions, 2, through our grant making and fund development, and then 3, which again, this year has been much smaller, is our events. So for the first time ever, we have been able to sign up and join the Big Day of Giving, which will be May the 6th, 2021. Over the course of the next few weeks, we'll be giving you some information to share with your entire network of people, because on this day, everyone in the Sacramento area has the opportunity to give to local nonprofits. It's a really well publicized thing. It's on TV, radio. And so we would like for you to help our foundation by getting that information out to as many people as you know. We're all going to be doing it to raise funds on that one day. I will tell you for like the last, they've only had it for about 5 years. So Dr. Peterson, I think every year for the last 5 years on Big Day of Giving, I get a text message that says, why are we not doing this? Because it really is that huge. And so we're really honored this year to be able to be a part of that. And I think it's going to help kind of, cover some of the areas that we've lost with events. The final thing that we're going to do this year is we are trying to do a golf tournament this fall. We've been in conversations with Cherry Island. It'll look very different, but as Director Turner and Director Block will share with you, golf is pretty socially distancing safe. And so we are working with the course to look at some ways. We may not have the big luncheons that we've come accustomed to, or the big gatherings, but there are some ways that we are going to do this while observing social distance and remote. Okay, Sergey, CBAC.
Yes, our Community Business and Advisory Council, which I actually had an honor to be serving on before I became an employee of GCC, is really a group of allies and ambassadors for us out in the business community and the community at large. And, we have very good friends and allies still, such as Dr. Virginia Dixon from CSU, from Sac State. Our own director, Harry Block, is there. And then more of a recent, maybe a couple years ago, we were able to recruit Commander Tom Jones from Aerospace Museum, who replaced previous General Hobbs, previous leader. David Nelson, who was with Board of Equalization, but he moved to, he's the Vice President of California Asian Chamber. Josh Wiley is our new CBAC member, thanks to Director Anderson, who was instrumental in recruiting him. So he represents Velara, which is a company that provides HVAC services to Greater Sacramento. I believe it's one of the largest companies here in Northern California. David Master from McClellan Business Park, who is our strategic partner. And then Alex Ushukov, actually, he said that he's gonna, even though he was recruited to Foundation, but he had so much interest being on CBAC, he said he would like to stay on CBAC if possible. So, and then we're gonna play it by ear. So he's gonna stay there, and he's with Northern Bank. Nikki Hamsuksai from Sac State, and actually Nikki recently got promoted. I believe she is one of the lead. She's in charge of all the civilians in the Sac State Police Department. Because she was in student development arena, but she moved there, and also a great friend of GCC. Daniel Lawrence and Jose Gutierrez, they represent Mutual Assistance Network. And then we have Ray Green from Sierra Health Foundation, as well as our partner, North Sacramento Chamber of Commerce, represented by Franklin Burris. And I will touch on our partnership with North Sac Chamber in regards to Firehouse Cafe when we get to the chamber slide. And then Agnan Gavrilov, who is the vice president and co-founder of Slavic Chamber, and he is also a managing partner of Gavrilov and Brooks law firm in Midtown Sacramento.
So as you can see, one of our kind of strategic plans, our goal, excuse me, was to really deepen our CBAC and to really work with them. We have been meeting with them quarterly, even in this remote setting, and continuing to provide. And I will say each of them have been very valuable in the work that we're doing. And we look forward to kind of seeing how we can continue to stretch and grow them. So the GCC parent engagement area has really been a lot of work of working our parent engagement through the blueprint, as well as our goals that we identified for connecting and outreaching to parents. I will tell you, this year of COVID-19 has also created an opportunity. So we have a parent resource tab on our website where we have not only given parents resource information about education, but we've given them community resources about, jobs, unemployment, health services. And so we really work to keep that updated. And then Sergey has done a lot of work with our parent liaisons this year. And so I'll let him share a little bit about our parent liaisons and our parent summit.
Thank you, Jason. Prior to COVID, we had a monthly parent liaison meeting in person. So starting COVID pandemic, we actually moved to a weekly check-in and then monthly larger meeting where we include all the schools that even don't have parent liaison to be part of the discussion. And we call it community and parent engagement meeting, monthly meeting, which is going really well. And we are able to share best practices, to share resources. And again, our Jason's and my work and Maisha's work with different groups and different resources, we're able to share this information with parent liaisons, and they subsequently can share it with the parent community. So it's been working really well. Of course, I mean, it's all digital. And I would like to comment on the picture that you guys see here. It is from the previous year parent summit. I was debating, because I do have a picture of the Zoom screenshot from the last one, but I just want us to see this picture, that this is where hopefully, God willing, we're gonna be moving this next year, because I don't know how you guys feel, but I feel tired of seeing all those little Zoom pictures, and you have to figure out who was where and within those little boxes. So that's just that. And then, as far as bringing resources to parents, once again, just to second and echo what Jason said, our focus, and Maisha Breed is a lead on this, is to gather all the information from different sources out in the community and give it to parents, give it to parent liaisons, and through different vehicles that we have, such as the parent resource tab, as well as each individual school has their own site where they post information for parents. All right, and I guess that's my turn, right, Jason? Okay, so the chamber involvement, I think our partnership with various chamber of commerces in the areas is really crucial because of career technical education, as well as the other partnership opportunities that we have with Sacramento Metro Chamber. Jason and I were part of Regional Economic Development Task Force, and as a matter of fact, I was on the call right before this meeting. So what it is it's a wonderful opportunity to have a conversation actually with, with the federal level. We have our congressional representatives, usually it's their staff attending. We have county representatives, states representative. We also have City of Sacramento and County of Sacramento. What they do is they share anything and everything COVID related. It's a 45-minute call with opportunity to ask questions, and usually happens every week. So this is a great resource where we can get information and share with our parent liaisons or administrators. And then the Workforce and Education Committee, our own Deputy Superintendent Jason Semple is serving on with Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce, which is also a great opportunity to work collaboratively with others in the region. North Sac Chamber, again, in addition to what you see on the slide, I'd like to highlight that actually North Sac Chamber is official partner with us on the Firehouse Cafe. And I had a conversation with not only Franklin Burris as a member of hvac, but also we're working with him on the Firehouse Cafe, and he identified a couple of business owners. One of them is actually running a catering business in North Sacramento. So we'll have this gentleman present to our student group when we're ready. And then, of course, the ethnic chambers, also a great resource. As a matter of fact, the COVID relief grant came from California Hispanic Chamber, and they were very instrumental in helping us to submit an application and working with them collaboratively on other community resources. And then the other chambers we continue to work with Elk Grove, with West Sacramento, Rancho Cordova, and also I'd like to note that the Metro Chamber is leading Chamber United Coalition, which is monthly phone calls where all the chambers and economic development organizations, PBIDs, that's public property business improvement districts, so they get together and share information about COVID relief resources and the struggles and what's out there for us to utilize in our work.
So we want to briefly share with you, just to kind of close out our presentation here, some areas of marketing and outreach that we've been kind of doing. One of the things that strategically Sergey and I have done recently is we begin meeting with our schools that serve primarily our Slavic population. And again, what we begin to look at is there was these small trends of we're seeing families that are moving out of state. And so we're talking to them about what things are we doing together to market, to outreach, to talk to our families, to see what their concerns and needs are, and to kind of begin to get ahead of it. So I just definitely want to affirm each of those principles for the deep conversations that we're having around this topic. It's really rich, and I think it's also given us the opportunity to not only track it, but to also know what's happening. So at CCCS K-12, we have done a lot of marketing work around direct mail, as well as digital branding for their websites, social media, including, I will tell you, if you are ever on Facebook, CCCS does a phenomenal job of marketing themselves through social media, and I definitely want to publicly affirm them for their work. As well as this year, we were very intentional about marketing their high school programs to COA middle school, GIS, and HLA families that were seeking other options through Pipeline, and we've seen some growth in the Pipeline program, and we hope to continue to work with that. One of the things that Sergey and I did is we met individually with each principal around looking at their enrollment numbers and also looking at what needed to happen to continue to keep them on track to grow. And so some of the information that Aaron shared with you on yesterday, we're definitely already ahead with the principals looking at what they need and what we need to do as a team. COA K-8, excuse me, we met with that entire team. A lot of work around radio advertisement through Afisha, print media within the ethnic markets. We have developed a really strong partnership, and I'll let Sergey speak to this, with Spanish media. So Sergey, can you share with us about the Primna model?
Yes. Thank you, Jason. Starting last year, multiple schools, multiple GCC schools, but particularly COA Middle, they partner up with De Primera Mano, and pardon me, who understands Spanish, I might not be pronouncing it right, but it's a leading publication, a leading magazine in Spanish language, and so we have an ad there, as well as we working with De Primera Mano on digital. On the digital marketing, adding, putting ads and announcements into Facebook and Instagram Spanish groups that are local for the area. As well as I would like to mention that, particularly middle school, there's also effort and focused outreach to Middle Eastern community. because I mean there's a large refugee population that is growing in the WAT 80 corridor, and this is another group that middle school is focusing on reaching out to.
And one of the other things that we've done through digital media is we have worked with a marketer who has attached when you Google in Sacramento that you want to go, schools that are open, you actually get an ad for GCC schools when you do that. And we're like that first thing that pops up for parents. So once again, we're using what they call digital marketing and analytics to kind of strengthen our footprint in the community. Epic, again, radio advertisement. They've had a successful radio program. We've done some work with the Parks and Recs departments of getting our flyers to neighborhood directly to neighborhood places. And currently we're working on a direct mail project to mail to every household and family in West Sacramento. Again, we're timing that to do that fairly soon because their district is still closed and we kind of want to be able to enroll to outreach. Now enrolling, also we're open for those families. And then we've been very active in the Southport magazine, which is a family publication in the area. Futures High School, we're doing a lot of work around digital analytics and direct mail, as well as digital branding. And then what we also enjoy is that the students have produced a radio program for advertisement, and they're doing a lot of parent and virtual meetings. And as you know, they continue to do their equity work with higher learning so that they can continue to grow that pipeline. GIS, we continue to do outreach. Matter of fact, we are preparing to launch a Facebook ad that actually I believe went live this week, now enrolling. And as you can tell, we've probably transitioned to a lot more digital marketing, which is just kind of where people are, where parents are. And we're doing a lot of marketing in Spanish magazine with them also. HLA continues to do Spanish marketing as well as virtual parent orientations for incoming or interested family, and they will be doing a direct mail later this year. Finally, Sava, they continue to do quite a number of things. I like to sometimes says we use them to be kind of our incubator of innovation. So they've done RT marketing where if you drive around downtown Sacramento, you'll see on the side of the light rail a thing that says tuition free charter school, enroll now, Sava. Recently, we've done some billboard work where they're on billboards around, as well as radio advertisement, Pandora, and we are also doing a lot of digital marketing. With that, we're more than happy to take any of your questions. Yes, Jack.
Yes, impressive. I really appreciate it, particularly on the marketing side. I have a question on, you said the digital seems to be the future, and I certainly wouldn't question that, would not disagree with that, but do you have any way of kind of getting a sense of what is really working? I was just wondering if direct mail, because it is expensive, is it really worth the cost anymore? Most of the direct mail we get just immediately goes into the recycle bin. So, but if you think digital is the future, maybe we should put more emphasis on that. So anyway, that again, a very impressive presentation.
Yeah, thank you for that, Jack. I will say that I think we've pivoted more towards digital. We still do, and when I say direct mail, our direct mail is more targeted, where we kind of know the exact person. And, the old way of doing direct mail, which was resident, you kind of got rid of that. But we do a direct mail where it's like, hey, Jason Sample. Oh, I got something. I'll stop and look at it for a few minutes because it has my name on it. But I think we're definitely doing more digital, more Google Analytics, and moving that way.
Jason, Jack, did you have your hand up again?
Yes, I did. I would
okay.
certainly support, and I will leave this up to you and Cindy, but spending more resources on Epic to see if we can't touch more of the student population and the parents in the Yolo County area.
Okay, thank you.
Have you looked at, I know it's pretty expensive, but TV, I've been looking at ads from another one of our charter school programs. This month, they're doing a lot on Black History Month and advertising different aspects of Black history and noting the school that it's coming from. Have you done anything with TV and radio and all of that?
So definitely, I think our presence with radio is very heavy.
Okay.
We have not done much with TV, though we have done quite a bit with kind of live stream type things, YouTube, Facebook Live, but we have not done a lot with television advertisement. Sergey, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yes, thank you, Jason. We actually have explored this opportunity to advertise on TV, and Jason and I, a couple of years ago, we met with folks from Channel 13 and Channel 10, and unfortunately, the cost was like astronomical. I mean, that's I'm sure it's effective, but it just, you know, for that same kind of money, we can do a lot of different things, and that was our main reservation to move forward with it.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, guys, I thought of that when I see these ads from other schools. I have to think how expensive it must be, and could those funds be utilized in some other meaningful way? So I just wanted to have a discussion on that to see what you thought. If I was
and I will. I'm sorry. And I will say that, you know, in terms of marketing, and I think that's the reason why we use the term marketing and outreach, we see every piece, whether it says now enrolling, or as an opportunity to brand and as an opportunity to kind of give brand awareness to the world to know who we are. So I will tell you, even, you know, our social media presence, and the fact that we have so many followers on Facebook, that it really says, here's yet another opportunity to know a little bit of who we are, to kind of pique your interest.
All right. Anything else from board members? Thank you so much, Sergey and Jason and your staff, for all of the work that you are doing with trying to make sure that we are out in the community, in the city, and the state. So thank you for your hard work and your small staff. And I know you're doing a lot with what you have. So thank you. Anything else, board members? Okay, Dr. Peterson, back to you.
I thought that was an excellent presentation, and definitely want to affirm both Sergey and Mr. Sample, and affirm them for their work. I do want to confirm what Board Member Turner said, and we said yesterday that certainly the EPIC program has experienced a drop in enrollment, as expressed by Aaron in his presentation. But having just received yesterday the entire social media blitz about their full IB certification, they are the only fully IB certified K-8 in West Sacramento. Now we can really blast it because we are certified. And at the same time, as Jason and Sergey said, really highlight that we're going to be opening, and I think we'll be opening before the schools around us do. We do have some anecdotal information from the community that some that have disenrolled will be coming back when we go face to face. We don't want to report that as a for sure until we see it, but we think that will mitigate some of the loss as well. It's just some families didn't want to do the distance learning. They wanted to wait till we were back in person. So hopefully we will see some mitigation by both marketing and by just the nature of opening. But again, I want to thank you both. I would like to suggest that this might be a better time for a break than what Jason, we had originally planned. It could be because I want to say that you and your team went over 15 minutes what you told me you were going to say, but I can't complain because I always go over. But what I'm thinking is right now it is 10:28. So it seems like a good time to take a 10-minute break. So if we come back at 10:38, and so if you would stay connected to your Zoom, but turn off your turn off your video and your microphone. And we will come back together at 10, what did we say? 10:48? No, 10:38, sorry, 10:38, right? Okay, 10 minutes, 10:38, we will be back together. Thank you, everyone.
We're back. Hello. There we are.
I think we are waiting for a couple
Yes.
people.
Yeah.
We are at the time we said we'd be back, but people are making their way back.
We are here.
And so as we get our other participants back, our next item is going to be the strategic presentations around special education. You'll remember that we spoke about this yesterday. This is our first year having all of our schools, which I just want to say I'm incredibly proud of how we managed this. For many, many years, double-digit years, we were schools for special ed of our authorizers. And when we decided that we felt that we were deep enough in experience and needed to be doing it ourselves in order to provide the best possible services, we began to do it in a very structured, slow, thoughtful way. And so we wound up adding additional schools each year for 3 years over time to create the capacity for us to manage this. So what you're going to see now is probably the culmination of that, which is our first ever. Here's our special education budget as a whole for all of GCC, since all of our schools are in the El Dorado County Charter SELPA for the first time. So I'm going to turn it over to Aaron Thornsberry, Christine McCormick, who are going to provide this overview for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Let me get 1 second here so I can share my screen. And okay. All right. Whoops, I'm sorry. That's good. Clicked on the wrong thing. Okay, there we go. All right, special education. So as Cindy mentioned, yes, for many years we were under the SELPA and as a school under the Twin Rivers Unified School District for Special Education Services. And as time has gone on and we've evolved at the GCC, we wanted to really ensure better services to our students and under our management. And so slowly we began joining the El Dorado Charter SELPA. With the El Dorado Charter SELPA, we receive funding directly from the SELPA. And we are responsible for the education and needs of our special education students. So this slide just shows a timeline of how that has come into play. Starting in 2013-14, when Gateway International School was chartered. It was our first charter outside of the Twin Rivers Unified School District. So we started fresh there and said, well, we're gonna enter that charter into the El Dorado Charter SELPA. And then in 15-16, the same with Epic being outside of Twin Rivers. And then 18-19, we decided that, and probably prior to that fiscal year, we started to decide that we would, we would bring in kind of a phased approach to the other charter schools, pulling them outside of the SELPA that Twin Rivers belong to, and bring them into the El Dorado Charter SELPA. So in 18-19, we started with Sauk City, and Sauk Elk Grove were two new charters as well. We brought those, entered those into the El Dorado Charter SELPA. But then in 1920, COA and Sava, and then in 2021, CCCS, Futures, and HLA, we pulled into the El Dorado Charter SELPA. So funding sources, these are the main funding sources we receive directly from the SELPA. So we receive the state special education funding, and that is around, right now, is at $625 per ADA. And it's per ADA based on all students in the school, not just special ed students. So that's how they calculate that. we receive a federal IDEA grant, Individuals with Disability Education grant, and it's that grant starts in year 2 of participation in the SELPA. So when a new school enters the SELPA, they don't get that right away in the first year. We have to wait one more additional year because with federal grants, they always look at the prior year data to determine eligibility and funding. And so we get $125 per prior year enrolled student, and that's all enrollment, based on all enrollment of the charter. There are some other smaller funding sources that come through the El Dorado Charter SELPA. So we have a mental health grant. We have to apply for that each year. And there's different levels of funding based on the need of the students. And right now we currently receive about $3,000 to $6,000 in total for some of the charter schools in the GCC. And then there is a low incidence funding stream as well that depends on the need and we have to apply for. And currently we don't have any serious low incidence needs, so we aren't receiving anything at this point. This slide just goes over the total special education budget for this fiscal year for the entire Gateway Community Charters. So you can kind of get a sense of how much and what we're receiving. So our state revenue stream, the largest, we received just over $3 million. We, from the federal IDEA grants, we received a little over $467,000. We should be, and that number will go up because we had on the previous slide, these 3 schools, CCCS, Futures, and HLA, they're in the first year, year 1 of the SELPA. So next year, these 3 schools will be eligible for IDEA funding. So we will receive an increase in the federal grant funding stream. Right now, we contribute from unrestricted funding or unrestricted LCFF funding, $228,000 to the special education budget. So we have a pretty low, I'd say, contribution from the unrestricted budget at this point in time. That could go up if we have a severe needs student that comes in the future. We have to place them in non-public schools. That could significantly increase. Or if populations of special education students increase as well, the needs go up. But right now it is a pretty fairly low amount. And then our expenditure side, we have certificated staffing, which consists of the special education teachers, the psychologists, speech therapists, and administration. And that's just about $1.63 million. Classified staff runs a little under 500,000, and that is of the paraprofessionals. And we have a registered behavior technician as well in that. Then you have the benefits driven off those salaries, some supply needs. The services and other expenditure item in the budget is pretty large. It's about $563,000. And that's because we do have to contract for services a lot with our special education program, because it is really hard to find sometimes certain positions internally to hire internally. We always are trying to hire our own staff, namely like speech therapists. They're very hard to find. And so we have to usually go out and contract for these services. or sometimes it's just there's not enough service demand to hire a full-time person or even a part-time person. You know, maybe they only need a few hours of a certain specialized service, and so it's easier to go out and contract for that. And so that's about a 563,000. And then the indirect costs are amounts that we are able to charge to the special education budget for, you know, to help for the help contribute to the cost of administrative need services like HR, payroll, accounting, and administration. And we're allowed to charge a percentage based for each different charter has kind of a different allowable percentage, and we're able to charge those unrestricted costs and bring them in to that, which kind of almost offsets our contribution from unrestricted funding. So it's kind of almost a wash there. Ooh. So our next slide, and I'm sorry, this is kind of displaying a little large. Christine, do you know how to shrink this down?
No, it's all right. It probably helps to display it large because of all the different boxes that exist on this slide. Probably looks a lot larger on your end.
Yeah, okay.
So as always, we try to bring you an update at your retreat about where we are in enrollment, specifically broken down by school and by their primary eligibility factor. That would be their primary disability. And this gives you that glimpse into a couple of the items that Aaron mentioned, that mental health funding that we can apply for. Often that is directly connected to services for our students that are identified as emotionally disturbed or ED. So we are able to reach back out to the SELPA and apply for those mental health funding to cover the cost of staff that are providing counseling services or other supports that are written into a child's IEP to ensure that they're successful in the academic environment. So that would be an example of how those are connected. Those low incidence funds that Aaron talked about, we have been able to apply for those in the past because we needed to purchase equipment for a student with, say, a deaf and hard of hearing impairment, or your HH category, or a vision impairment, your VI category. But those students that we currently serve, we have been serving, so we don't have as many expenses. But if we were to get another student that needed vision services or equipment, or someone with a significant orthopedic impairment, we could apply to the SELPA to help us offset the purchase of equipment that is written in that student's IEP to assist them also to be successful in the school environment. Overall, we're compared to last year at this time, we're about 60 students less that we're serving. I will tell you that our largest enrollment, as you see here, are typically at our SAVA sites, and it is not surprising to me that we are down numbers with the fact that so many of our families are now in distance learning. The thought of moving a student from an environment where they currently are into a new environment would be a struggle, I think, for a family to make that transition. But I truly believe as we start to go back to more in-person services, we will see our enrollments for special education increase as families want to have more direct access to a teacher. I just think it would be hard to try to make a shift for a student at this point when they're already sort of settled into a teacher environment. So anyway, but that is where we are sort of across the board with how we're serving students within all our programs. Next slide. I bring back to you our slide that we would have shared a year ago, and sort of where we were. Those red numbers were some additional needs and looking forward of what we were going to hire. And then the next slide is where we are now. So excited to have our school psychologists, 4 school psychologists that are serving students across all of our campuses now. Our education specialists, so those would be your teachers with special education credentials that are serving, our behavior analysts. We have our own speech language pathologist, which is very exciting. We were able to hire someone. She actually worked for us as a contractor and came on board as an employee. We were also able to hire a speech language pathology assistant as our own staff this year. We have our own nurse, we have our own LVN. As Erin mentioned, we are still contracting for speech services, but we are hopeful as we're continuing to look to hire that we are able to hire those on our own and be able to be fully staffed and eliminate that need for contract services. We will still contract service most likely our orthopedic services. We currently use Easter Seals just because we don't have a large enough demand to hire our own specialist for that, as well as vision services. And we would like to have our own hard of hearing staff that would just work on an hourly basis. So that's sort of our dreams as we move forward in looking at how we are fully staffed. But I will want to affirm Eric and his entire special education team for the work they're doing with our students, and especially as they began to transition services for all of them to a virtual environment. We came on board the moment schools closed. That team was ready to go and was able to transition and provide services for all of our students. So, and have been back on campus providing one-on-one services as well as assessments as soon as they can with any families that are willing to participate. So I think that's our last slide. So we would move to questions.
Board members, any questions? Okay, I always have questions. Do you feel that we're meeting the needs? First of all, we are not at our 10% services for special ed students yet, from what I could see, other than Sava has a large, but.
I want to interrupt you for a moment and make sure that we understand your question. What I believe you're making as an observation is we are not yet at the average of what the state has as a percentage identification. Okay.
Yeah. So where are we, Christine, with that? Do we have a percentage at this point?
I do. I would do I can do the math for you, but we I will tell you, as anticipated, our specific learning disability number is overall going to be higher than the state. But that does not surprise me, especially on the enrollments with our Sava campuses. We have trended that way, which is absolutely appropriate. But and then as far as servicing our students, I believe are way ahead of what others are able to do in this unique and unusual time. All of our teachers have been able to push in and support students inside their regular general ed classroom, Zoom meeting, Google Hangout, whatever that looks like. And many of them are members of that teacher's Google Classroom, so they can monitor students' assignments and completion of assignments. So they've done a fabulous job.
Great, and I think that's part of what our board wanted to hear, that we are servicing the needs of students, that we're being able to particularly meet the demands of our special ed students. So that is what I wanted to make sure. And I was looking at the budget, and I know statewide or federal, we were supposed to be at 18% some time ago, and we still had not reached that when I last heard. So where are we, Erin, in terms of the financial responsibility from federal? Because I remember going to Washington, D.C., advocating for the 18% many, many years ago. We still have not reached that.
No, and I have seen some hopeful articles on how the new administration will be trying to increase that federal level. But one of the good things is that the state has really in the last, it was from 1920 fiscal year to 2021, there was a jump. Even though and even from 1819 and 1920, The governor, Governor Newsom has really been an advocate to increase special ed funding as well. And so the state has really jumped up a little bit higher than the kind of just the tenant, the COLA. And so that jump up to 625 was a pretty big jump. I think before that it was somewhere around like 540 per ADA or something. So,
and it's good to see that that 600 is based upon total student enrollment, not just special education.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. Very good thing. Okay. Special education is special to my heart after doing it for 8-9 years. So I'm always interested in where we are and what's happening. So thank you. Anything else, board members? Thank you, Christine, you've done a yeoman's job. You've been here, what, 2 years now with GCC? Is it 2 or 3 years?
It was 2 years last week, ma'am.
2 years last week, and you have been working hard to increase our staffing and bring in people who are certified and know what they're doing. And I can say this particularly is close to my heart, so I've been watching it. So thank you, and thank all of your directors and all of our teachers and what have you. Thank you, Erin, for looking at the budget.
I definitely want to affirm both Erin and Christine for this report. And while I want to give all that same glory to Christine, I do want to call out Director Eric Crawford, who has definitely come on board. And while he may not have had his anniversary year with us yet, he's been working very hard in this area and doing a great job for us as well. I believe if we were to ask our sites right now, they feel they are the most served in the area of special ed that they ever have in terms of not just services, but expertise and someone who's present and a partner with them. And so I think we're in a good place with our special education. So,
excellent.
All right. Thank you again. And we're going to move to our next presentation, which is the presentation related to charter renewal and the newest regulatory implications. I think this is a combination of Jason Sample and Dr. McCormick are going to give us some updates on this. Yes, Mr. Sample?
That is correct. And so, as you know, I love to talk about charter renewals. It feels like charter renewals all the time now. Thank you again, Dr. Peterson. And so Dr. McCormick and I will kind of hit a couple of items. You're not only going to get an update on charter renewals and AB 1505, but you're also going to receive your mid-year LCAP update, as well as an update on credentialing. So we'll jump right in. The first thing that I would like to say, just to remind you, that AB 1505 was the piece of legislation that went through the legislature last year. Actually, it was a little bit the year before, but it was kind of finalized last year, in which it was the largest rewrite of the Charter Schools Act since the inception of the act in way back when. I won't say the year because I'm getting smiles. What this rewrite of the law did was it created material revisions for any change in facilities, or if you want to add a grade level. The timing of the process for charter renewals was revised. The threshold for charter approval was changed. Content of what goes into your charters was also changed. The basis for denial was revised. The appeal process and the standard for that was revised. Credentialing requirement was tightened as a provision of the 1505 law, and you'll hear a little bit more about that later. It eliminated the statewide benefit charter schools, and it revised the renewal process and standards. So we begin to, and you may remember, we start talking about this even when the legislation was just beginning to go through, what that would look like. For us, the very first school that went through the new 1505 lens was Gateway International School. And so we'll talk about that in a minute. So one of the big areas that 1505 did was it changed the timelines for charter renewals. I will tell you, for years, it was like etched in our brains. You submit your charter, you have 30 days to call a public hearing, and after that, you have 60 days to give me a decision, and that's it. I mean, that was the, you did that by heart. Well, it changed it. It kind of added 30 days. So now a district has 60 days to call a public hearing, and they have 90 days after the 60 to come up with a final determination. We definitely experienced that with Gateway, not as projected, but definitely a little bit of a longer timeline than we had traditionally gone with. So CDE has 3 tiers, or the 3-tier system that you've heard so much about for charter. One is high-performing charter schools. The schools that are in this category, their renewal period will be for a period of 5 to 7 years. It's also known as the fast track or the automatic renewal world. Middle performing charter schools, the renewal period will be for 5 years. I will tell you, if you look at the majority of charter schools in the state of California, we're all middle performing charter schools, so there's nothing bad about being there. Low performing charter schools, the renewal can be denied or it can be granted for no more than 2 years. And so again, you want to kind of stay out of the low tier. So here's our renewals, and what I did was I clumped them by authorizer. And what you'll see on your screen is this is directly from CDE. So CDE publishes now where they feel the charter school lands in terms of its performance level. And this information or this data is given to each authorizer. And even during our conversations with San Juan, because we felt that we were just a little bit closer to the high performing, but they really said we're going as authorizers by what CDE produces in terms of this grid. So Gateway International was labeled middle performing. Therefore, we were afforded a 5-year renewal. I will tell you, I just updated this slide because we renewed on February the 23rd, 2021. And our renewal term for this one will be July the 1st, 2021 through 6/30/2026, believe it or not. All right, Yolo County Office of Education. You may remember they were renewed back in October of 2019. Their renewal term started this July. And if we were to look at EPIC under today's lens, if you remember, they went in before the law changed. So they were under the old kind of regime of looking at charters. But if they went in today under the lens, they would be considered a middle performing school. And they would also have been afforded a 5-year renewal. So now comes where we're going this year, which is our Twin Rivers schools. They all are currently middle performing schools. And the renewal timeline for each of those is that we are currently, which is spring of 2021, we're currently in the development writing of each of those petitions. Dr. Peterson and I have met to kind of do the initial base strategic and strategy work around what charter schools and where we kind of have assessed where they are. And I think we have a really good grip on our schools and the opportunities moving forward. We even have all the way up to this week a meeting with our authorizer in Twin Rivers just to initiate our annual oversight as well as some conversations. We anticipate in the fall, winter of this year, submission as well as public hearing and probably early next year board action on our charters there. I will tell you, we'll keep you updated as we kind of move through the process, but as always, we're feeling good, but we also know that we have work to do. So you saw on that list that there were some charters missing, and these are the DOS schools, our Dashboard Alternative School Status. We have Sava El Grove, Sava Sac City, Community Collaborative Charter School, and Sava, Twin Rivers, as we kind of call it internally. These schools are also used to be what was the ASAM schools. So they have a separate set of measurable outcomes that we have agreed with our authorizers on for what they will look at internally for renewal purposes. There is no track system for DAS schools. And for us, CCCS and Sava Twin Rivers, will have their renewal this year. So we're in the midst of their development and writing work. And again, we'll submit for them this fall or winter. Their submission, public hearing, and board action will be next year. And then, believe it or not, the year after that, we will do Elk Grove and Sac City. And then we get a year of what I like to call ensuring that Dr. Peterson has us put a charter somewhere in there to write a new one, so that we have a rotating renewal every year. And then we go and we start working on Epic. Dr. McCormick.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jason. So moving into your LCAP update. So we have some same, we have some new, and we have some different. So we do have a revised LCAP template. I know you're shocked that we have another revision coming up, as we do seem to have fairly regularly. If you recall, the LCAP was suspended for the last year, so we are having to make some adjustments, one of which is the annual update. It will be a separate document that will really be based on their learning continuity plan. So that was that sort of in-between document that we presented to you earlier this year that addressed distance learning and how we were ensuring that students had access to technology. Their annual update will really be based on that plan, and it will be a separate document. From this point forward, however, though, the annual update is embedded into the new LCAP template, and it does look a little different than what we've seen in the past. But what you'll see presented when we bring the LCAP to you will just be their goals and metrics. They do have some very specific stakeholder engagement requirements that have been delineated a little bit more. Everyone does. It's not just us and the GCC, but that's one of the changes that we see with the LCAP, as well as we have a new local indicators timeline. We used to bring those to you separately, and they will now be brought to you as part of that LCAP approval process. We're really doing some work with our schools to make sure that our documents are aligned to charter renewal documents. And one of those areas is making sure we're identifying all our sub-metrics. That's part of the renewal process. So we want to add some connectivity into their LCAP so that we're having sort of that through line. So that's one of the items we're working on in development. We know there's going to be some changes coming to the identifiers and metrics for the increased and improved services portion of the LCAP. We just don't have those details yet, but we will by the time we bring the document to you. And how we'll bring the document to you will be different. We are now subject to bringing the LCAP as a public hearing item in a separate board meeting from approval. So you will see that agendized in June. I will give you an update of sort of the overall portion of the LCAP for each of the school sites, allow time for a public hearing, and then you will approve the LCAP at a separate meeting alongside Aaron's presentation of the budget. Next slide. The other element that I wanted to talk with you about is we will have some credentialing changes, as Jason mentioned, as part of AB 1505. So we now have a new system called Cal SAS that connects with Cal PADS and looks in depth at teacher credentialing aligned to the courses they teach and the school's master schedule. So I'm just going to pause for a moment and affirm Laura and her team. They are jumping in deep to understanding how not only do credentials work from the human resources side, but they are now learning how they work very deep into what it looks like on a master schedule. So Laura and Paula, our director of data and accountability systems, and myself have been spending lots of time making some connections so that we can continue to support our schools in ensuring that they're hiring staff that meet the new requirements. So those that are hired 20 and 21 will have to have the appropriate credentials for the courses they are teaching. And then we do have until 2025 to make sure that teachers that were employed prior to that can meet the credentialing requirements. So with this new CalSAS system, we are now subject to assignment monitoring, which our districts have been in partnership with their county office of education for as long as I can remember. But we are now subject to that assignment monitoring by our authorizers. So our authorizers are working in partnership with us to understand teacher misassignments and teacher placements. And with that, we will need to bring to you as a board for approval a resolution around local assignment options, which is one of the options that we can use to show that our independent study teachers are credentialed. But we also have some other local assignments that will need your approval to meet the new requirements under assignment monitoring. Misassigned teachers will be reported in the LCAP as they are for our districts. Misassigned teachers are not something new in California. It's just a different way for us to make some connections that we at charter schools have not been subject to, but our districts have for a while. And it's a matter of each of our school sites being able to put together a plan of how they'll address that misassignment. And we're open to questions.
Yes, Jack.
Yes, my question is, and again, appreciate the information and very, very informative. How many of our staff have the waiver until 2025, and are they working to get themselves credentialed so that we don't have some issues in 4 years?
I will tell you that I do not have an exact number because we are still in the process of doing some of that work. We are waiting for our fall 2 reporting in CalPads, which will help us. It really gives us that identifier. But what we do know is that Laura and her team are working very hard to understand how we need to help each teacher come up with that specific plan once we have more of a frame of who exactly those are that are populating within the interconnectivity of the 2 systems. I will tell you that anyone that we have hired this school year, we are hiring those that meet those requirements, because that's, or at least it's been interesting in the credentialing process. The commission has not been able to do several of the required assessments because they were not offered, because they're face-to-face assessments. So we've had some interesting sort of extensions of timelines, but I think as things start to return for access, we'll have a better idea of how we can best support our teachers. So it's been an interesting journey, but it will be fine. All our teachers will have a plan, and we have lots of opportunity to help support them to get there.
So can I just kind of step in terms of if you were to give Jack an approximate at the end of the year when this came into being, I don't think we had more than 10.
Okay.
I mean, that was the last number we were discussing, is around 10 to 12. I don't think we're talking hundreds.
Oh no.
So, and because the 10 to 12 or whatever that number is, it's people who are already hired, but in a position where their credential isn't what is believed to be the appropriate credential, right?
Actually, I think for the numbers that we have that don't have the appropriate credential, it's probably even less than that, because we do have an option to, if they have, for example, the units that they need, and that's what Laura and her team are working on now, they're considered to be credentialed under a local assignment option.
So I'm just making sure I'm trying to give Jack a sense of scope. It isn't pervasive, and we are managing it.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, what I want to lead up to, if we have identified some of the staff in that category that we really think are candidates that would want to remain in the GCC, it's not uncommon for districts to work out plans to help them. And since we have such a good lead time, if I just will say I would be supportive of any model you come up with that would assist those people to become fully credentialed. And I just think it's a very good personnel practice.
Got it.
Yeah, and I think that is an option, Cindy, that we have talked about. There are things that are in place if people need assistance to get their credentials.
We're doing everything we can to provide the affected parties with everything that they need resource-wise.
That is correct.
And yeah, I think
Okay.
we had one particular case where the person was not interested in doing what was necessary, if I remember right, one. And everybody else, I think, is truly in a place where they are accepting our resources and support and moving on a plan. So I think we're in a good place on this.
That's what I wanted to make sure that Jack understood, that there are things that have been in place and continues. So thank you. Any other questions or comments from board members? Do I see anything else? Thank you, Dr. McCormick. It's a big job, but you're doing it. You and HR, so thank you. And I am very pleased with what I see when I look at personnel and see how many teachers we are hiring with credentials and what have you. Few might be out of place, but most of our staff credentials. So, and I look at that.
Yeah, I do think it will be an interesting time because, as most of you are aware, we were already at a time of teacher shortage, if you will. We certainly have hit that harder. And the latest statistic I read is that something close to 26% of teachers that were within range of being able to retire have chosen to retire, which is somewhat double, I think, the number that they usually plan for at this time. Now, don't, count me on the math a little bit there, but I remember being quite shocked by it. So we do have quite a bit of retirement from those that are eligible. I think that what you may have seen in Aaron's report yesterday on the governor's budget is his response is a lot of different programs to incentivize people to go into education and to get their credentials and to clear those credentials, and those all have financial information behind them. And one of those is to once again fund, I forget the right name, someone will tell me, but it is the fund that takes our paraeducators and helps them go from being a paraeducator to a teacher. And so I think that we're going to see some interesting things. Plus, as I believe Dr. McCormick alluded to, the districts around us are going to have the same misassignments, and they're going to have their own policies and ways to handle that. And we are given the flexibility to manage that in the same way our authorizers are. Correct, Dr. McCormick?
Yeah. Yes, that's correct. Those will be the local assignment options that we will bring to you. There's probably 15 education codes that we'll be able to access to support our teachers.
And we will be getting more information where we have to approve the LCAP updates and what have you.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. On this particular item, Jason, is there more in your area of charter and renewal and LCAP and that catch-all that you've been doing? Is there more?
I believe Dr. McCormick and I covered everything on this item.
Look at that. You actually made up for some lost time. I will give you kudos for that.
Thank you.
So, all right, as I can tell, and I will let Cabinet correct me, if I can tell, we are back to Madam President managing regular business items. Is that correct? All right, so we turn the gavel back over to you, Madam President.
All right, well, thank you. And I will make comments in our board comments about our last 2 days. So right now we're moving to consent agenda items, board members. And we have the adoption of the GCC Board Minutes of January the 12th, 2020, personnel consent agenda items, purchases over 30,000, record retention policy that was brought to us last board meeting, special education teacher deaf and hearing job description, Cal OSHA COVID-19 prevention program, and I believe 6-7 school year calendar. So those are the consent agenda items. Did I miss anyone? Did I miss one? If not, I will entertain a motion for the adoption of the consent agenda items.
I move approval.
Move approval, Mr. Turner. Second, Bruce, thank you. Now, is there discussions or comments or questions on any of the consent agenda items, Mr. Turner? Jack.
Yes, Aaron, I looked at the amount we're spending it on Chromebooks, and I know we're being subsidized for doing that with special funding. But just a point of interest, do you have any idea how many Chromebooks we've purchased overall in the GCC this year? It has to be some significant number.
I don't have that information right now. I could get back to you with that. I need to talk to the IT.
I think the interesting thing would be to get a report maybe since the pandemic would be interesting. So maybe take it back to February and be able to say, you know, how many Google Chromebooks, and some have chosen laptops and Apple products.
Right.
So I think that's kind of the same bucket, because I think it might be a very interesting figure to be able to say how we have addressed the need for technology for distance learning. I think it's going to be very compelling once we figure out that number. So we'll bring it back to you, Jack. I think that was a very good question.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other comments? Any other discussion? Hearing none, I will now do a roll call vote for consent agenda items. Okay, and again, Mr. Anderson is not here. Mr. Block?
Yes.
Mr. Mandrick?
Here, yes, yeah.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Campbell? Yes. Unanimously approved for those that are here. And so all of the consent agenda items have been approved. And now we are moving down to the close of our business for the last 2 days. We will move to board comments. Board comments from any one of our board members. Yes, Mr. Turner. Jack.
I just want to say thank you to the staff, all of them who you have made the presentations. Really, I know you're very busy and I know a lot's going on, but it was truly provided a lot of information and answered a lot of questions that I had. And I just have to say, I mentioned it yesterday, I miss seeing people in person. So I obviously, as we get the schools back in a person classroom meeting with the teacher, I look forward to when we will be back meeting with as a group. And so anyway, very well done, very informative, and kudos to everybody.
Thank you, Jack. Yes, Bruce.
I'll just second what Jack said, but also I like this format for, especially the Zoom format. I'm not sure it would work in others, but the Zoom format, it breaks it up a little bit, and I think it was a real good idea.
Great, thank you. Okay, Harry, anything else from you? There are several things that I do want to mention. Again, we send our sympathy to our board member, Anderson Mark, at the passing of his mother. And you did get information, board members, from Melissa yesterday concerning the plant that we will be sending, that was sent to him. I think he should have gotten it today from the board members. And you got the amount that we each are credited to send to Melissa. Don't forget your 700, I'm forgetting the name of it, but
Form 700.
Form 700 that you need to sign and send back, look at it, read it, send back to Melissa. And that would be part of what we would be doing if we were in person. So make sure you get that form signed and sent back to Melissa. Yes, Jack.
Yes, one thing I reminded, I was reading the news this morning, and I understand the governor and the legislature is close to coming to agreement on some program. And Aaron, I assume the other board members, you would like the information also. Once we get that information, it'd be nice to get an update from you on what that means for our opening of schools and supplemental, but it appears to be very close. So I would just be interested in how it impacts the opening of our schools.
Most probably we'll be in a place to be able to give you that with some level of detail at our next board meeting. We have been tracking it. We've also been advocating. One of the biggest areas under constraint and disagreement is how often they want to test staff and how often they want to test students, and the amount of money that doesn't cover all that testing. And so we are following, and we understand, because there's been a lot of pivoting and fluidity in that process as well. So we will get you something if it's all decided, which I believe it will be, by your next board meeting, if that's okay, Board
And-
Member Turner.
Fine.
Speaking of, oh, I'm sorry, Jack. Did you have something else? Okay. And speaking of next board meeting, when is our next board meeting?
Madam President, our next board meeting is scheduled for March 9th.
March 9th.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
And it will be our regular board meeting at 4:45 by Zoom. Maybe by then we'll be in and we can, that's just a thought. Absolutely not. Okay. Oh, well.
I can guarantee you we will not be on March 9th. Okay.
I saw that look that you gave me. So don't even say that, Campbell. Do not say that.
Well, you
Okay.
go for your first shot in March.
Yes, that's when I go for my first one. Yes.
Well, maybe after we can confirm that all of you have each had your 2 shots each, we may
Well.
have another conversation.
By March 9th, I will not have had my 2. I'll only have 1 by then. All right. Again, thank you, every one of you, each of you, for a job well done in terms of bringing information, in terms of the amount of work that it took for you to come to us with all of the information that you brought. Staff, everyone. I won't even try to call names. I'll just keep saying staff. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It was very informative, and things that we really need and things that we have talked about for some time, and we got many of the answers that we need. So thanks for your hard work, for your dedication, and for your commitment. Each of you in cabinet, each of you on the staff. We can't thank you enough. And thank you for the lovely treats that you sent to us. And board members, do not forget to get your forms back to Melissa, and also your funding. Thank you. You got a
Sorry.
line?
Yes, I am hoping that you can see my screen.
Yes.
So our launch for the second day, before you adjourn us officially, Madam President, is vision without action is a dream, and action without vision is simply passing the time. Action with vision is making a positive difference. So I am grateful that the work that we're doing about vision here across these 2 days is about reporting to you how the vision has feet and action, and how we're making a positive difference together with you. So thank you.
And we are making a positive difference for parents, for students, and for all of the staff who are out there doing the work and making that difference. So thank you, each of you. And now, if there's nothing else good for the organization, I will entertain a motion for adjournment in a second. May I have a motion?
I'll move to adjourn.
Move to
I second.
adjourn. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. The ayes have it. Go in peace, be safe, get your shots, and
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
continue to